If you have heard of the iconic hairstyles from the 1950s to the 1980s, then you must be keenly interested in the fashion history of that era. Do you remember the days when the mullet was all the rage? Or the excitement of choosing between the wet look and the dry look? These old photographs reflect a period of past history that many of us look back on with nostalgia. Let's have a look through some vintage barbershop and hair salon guides and see how folks were sculpting their hair in decades past. We'll start with the fellas. In a 1970s barbershop guide, we find a few early examples of the mullet, a proto-mullet, if you will. The hairstyles seem to reflect the influence of popular culture at the time, with one gentleman looking like he definitely wants more cowbell, and another resembling a Vulcan. In 1973, the choice between the wet head and the dry look is evident in a hair salon guide, making us wonder if the wet look really did look better than the dry look they were pushing. The women's hairstyle options from the 1968 Australian Women's Weekly are a sight to behold. With names like Cockade, Date Bait, Temptress, and Cameo, it was all about making a statement with your hair. The variety of options for women's hairstyles at the time was truly remarkable. Moving on to the 1980s, the Cosmopolitan magazine featured hairstyles like the Lush Leonine or the Kiki Switch, reflecting the bold and adventurous spirit of that era. And let's not forget the Soviet hairstyle guide from 1987, which gives us a glimpse into the fashion trends of the Soviet Union at the time. The Orange Coast magazine from 1984, featuring the newest style, possessive crazy-eyed psycho girlfriend, captures the edginess and rebelliousness of the 1980s, with one model even appearing to be clutching a knife. As we journey through these old photographs, we are reminded of the historical context of each era. The 1950s were characterized by the influence of rock and roll, with hairstyles reflecting the rebellious spirit of the time. The 1960s saw a surge of creativity and individuality, with hairstyles becoming more diverse and expressive. In the 1970s, disco and glam rock had a major influence on fashion and hairstyles, while the 1980s were all about boldness and experimentation. The most exciting part is still ahead, so let's immerse ourselves in the images and reminisce about that era. These old photographs are a window to the past, allowing us to savor history and appreciate the beauty and uniqueness of each era's hairstyles.